The training video. One of my top 5. It's got one of the best lines ever in any comedy. You know, Krusty Krab was not a success overnight because they close at 6.
I freaking love that.
That is brilliant.
It's my favorite episode.
It's top 5 for me.
No, it's my favorite.
Beach War. That's a good one. Caveman.
Yep. Oh,
Chocolate. Training video.
What about the movie?
The first movie. Yeah, very good. Okay, here we go. I showed you on previous slides the rise of the populist party, and I suggested to you that any third party won't win elections. The third party rarely wins elections, but they are important. And I introduced to you yesterday one reason why they're important is because they do bring ideas that the dominant parties swallow up. And here's the second reason they're important. They might not win, but they sure impact who loses. Because the voter who would have otherwise voted for dominant political party 1 or 2 casts their vote for third party candidate, which means that the dominant party candidate lost that vote. What we need to do is look at this and say, all right, who would the green voter have voted for had she not voted for? Well, in this case, had he not voted for green candidate, women could not vote nationally yet. Women could vote in Western states. That was a way Western states attracted people who moved to their territory so they become a state. Hey, women, move to our territory. You can vote. And it actually caused many women to move out west. Look at the popular vote. Who wins a majority? Team red, team blue, team green? Who wins a majority? Nobody wins a majority. Nobody wins a majority. Again, we've seen this time and time again. But Team Red is the largest single piece of pie. It's relatively close, 5.5 million voting for Team Red, 5.1 million voting for Team Blue. A significant vote for Team Green. The question is, who would Team Green voters have voted for had the Green candidate not even been there? And it's hard to say. But probably the Republican in this case. Probably their views sort of aligned more than the populist party aligned with the red candidate, Grover Cleveland. And so we can say with some certainty, had the populists not run, Harrison would have been elected president. But he did run, so Harrison feels robbed. You can see that Mr. Cleveland dominates the electoral vote. One note here, it's even working, but one note here that's at the bottom. What so often happens is that sometimes groups shoot themselves in the foot. For example, the populists, right? They're this new wave, and they want to increase democracy, but we're not letting blacks vote. Oh, no. What? No. We can't do that. And you see this time and time again. These new groups come along, and they want to introduce this new idea, for example, the 15th Amendment granting blacks the right to vote. Well, wouldn't it seem obvious that the people advocating the black vote would also advocate the women's vote? It would seem, what would be the argument against it, right? We want more people to vote. And then this group over here is like, well, what about women? Oh, no. What? What are you, nuts? We want the black men to vote, but women? All right, well, you've just shot yourselves in the foot. You've just caused a significant portion of the population to not support your idea of the black vote because you're not supporting their idea of the women's vote. And same thing here. Because the South continued to not allow, through poll tax, literacy tests, grandfather clause, blacks to vote, they didn't vote for the populists, and as a result, the populists did not do well in the South, leading to Cleveland winning the presidential election. Okay. But I mean, notice though that the populists did win some states here. They're a thing. Their ideas will be swallowed up by the Democrats or the Republicans later on, so they'll die out. But they're still a thing. Do know that Cleveland wins the election.
Is it still like flip-flop, like the Republicans right now are pretty much the Democrats?
Right, so look, the Democrats still dominate the South. The big switch hasn't happened yet. When does that happen? Good question. Stay tuned. Yes. Yep. So there are states that throughout America's history have decided, well, let's go with proportional voting. So North Dakota, each candidate got one vote because the vote was relatively close, so they awarded proportionally. California, the same thing. What they did was they looked at the popular vote and said, all right, the red candidate won about 8/9 of the popular vote, so he shall win 8/9 of the electoral vote. Some states do that. Most states just go winner take all. If you win by one single popular vote, you get all of that state's electoral votes. And because of that, you get results like this, where the popular vote, nobody wins the majority, but somebody wins the majority of the electoral votes. Because you can win a state by one single popular vote, like Illinois. It's 24 electoral votes. Grover Cleveland might have won that by one popular vote, but he gets all 24 electoral votes. So just ekes out a minority win here, but wins a majority in the electoral vote. That's why Trump won the presidency, but lost the popular vote. It's because Trump won a bunch of very close elections, mainly in the Midwest, including Wisconsin, where Clinton dominated states like California and New York, dominated. So she won more popular votes, but he won a bunch of close popular votes. Any questions here? All right, let's keep going. I think we've already looked at this as well, but this is the unifying of our country. What we have here is a series of things that are located in certain locations. Let's just kind of look at this one piece at a time. The world's leading supplier of iron ore is northern Wisconsin and northern Minnesota. Well, there it is up there. Well, it's got to get over here so it can be made into boats. Well, what they do is they figure out, well, how you do that? Well, you can send it by train. You can send it along the Great Lakes. Got to get to Pittsburgh, where it's made into steel and then made into boats for the world's largest navy, World War II. Well, you got cattle over here in Oklahoma. Well, you got to get it over here. Well, do a cattle drive to Kansas City and then have it ride the trains to the East Coast where it can be made into a delicious T-bone steak. You've got farming, the world's breadbasket. We are the world's leading producer of food today. Well, and including Wisconsin. Well, you got to get that stuff over here so that can be shipped. Well, trains provide that. And it's made over here in the factories of the Northeast and then sent back along those same rail lines as finished products. You're looking at why trains are so important. Trains unify the country. And because they are that important, they are seen as a common good by the U.S. government, who will make sure that trains are in ample supply, and the U.S. government will use tax money to help railroads succeed. And so as an example, the Union Pacific Railroad, that's the one that went right through the middle. That's this red line right here. That's the Union Pacific. Was given land by the U.S. government here for free. And what you do with that land, it's up to you. Want to sell it? Want to develop it? Whatever. Well, that makes railroads incredibly profitable. And I've said this before, but the Irish were the ones who built the railroad from east going west and it was the Chinese who built from the west going east, and they met. And it was Chinese labor that went this way, it was Irish labor that went that way, and they met in Utah. Not that that's significant. Railroads often sold the land, and it's because of railroads that we needed a concept of time. It becomes now important to know, if you leave New York at a certain time, what time is it going to be in Chicago? So they came up with this idea called time zones. So right now it is 8:45 to 9. What time is it in New York right now? 10 to 10. They're an hour ahead, right? And you know that. Before railroads, who knows what time it is in New York? I don't know. It's whatever time they decide it is. A unified system. The United States doesn't. There's generally 4 time zones, right? There's East, Central, Mountain, and Pacific. And then we have Alaska, and they're annoying. And then Hawaii, and they're annoying. Anyone want to guess today, how many time zones are there? Think logically. How many time zones are there? You would seem that there would be 24. I think there's like 40. Which you're sitting there like, what? How can it be 40? And do a little investigating, you'll find out that some have like half-hour time zones. Some countries go with half-hour time zones. China is one time zone. The entire country is one time zone.
Well, yeah, but they took the one that's like Albert Beijing and they just made a whole lot.
Exactly, right? It's all centralized. Very good. There are people that say we should get rid of time zones. Make it noon everywhere. So because time zones, what time zones, according to these people, what time zones do is sit down and say, okay, what time is it in Tokyo? And these people say, why? What time is it in Tokyo? Look at your watch. That's what time it is in Tokyo. So for some of us, we'd eat lunch at 4 a.m. Your school day would go from, 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. or whatever. And people are like, no, that would mean I would be really tired. No, it wouldn't. You'd go to bed at 10 a.m. and you'd wake up at 7 p.m. or whatever, right? They were not there, but I'm just saying some people suggest it. Okay. Any questions here? One slide left. Let's specifically identify some of the creative things that railroads and other companies did as corruption. The first one I'm introducing you is something called stock watering. Companies still do this all the time. What they do is they make claims about what their company has done so that you think it's a great company. So you buy the stock, and so the value of their stock goes up, but they aren't. They didn't do any of it. They just made it up. That's fraudulent behavior. You can't do that. You can't do that. But they do it anyway, right? Now, who's going to police this? There is no government agency that says, hey, railroad, you can't do that. But as I've suggested, this is the time period after the Civil War is, right, the Civil War and Reconstruction is dealing with, can states secede and slavery, and supposedly that's over. We've done it. We've solved that problem. Now we of course know they didn't, but at least the illusion. Now we're moving on to another set of issues, and it's more economic. These incredibly huge companies, railroads and later on oil and steel, banking, they become enormous, and that presents a whole new set of issues. What if they cheat? What if these huge companies cheat? Now, before, we'd ask that same question slightly different, and that is, what if states cheat? What if states cheat? Well, you can't, right? We're going to send the Union Army after you. As Abraham Lincoln once said, you in the South are all racist, and I'm going to attack you with the North. Direct quote. It was in the Gettysburg Address. That was a lie. That never happened. But now, there are these new entities, not states, corporations. corporations, and they're cheating. What are we going to do about it? The second is bribery. Let's just bribe judges and mayors and legislators, senators. Let's just bribe them. Let's just pay them money. Let's cut them in on the deal. Think of, let's say there's a gang in LA and they've got a drug trade going. The entity that will stop them is the po-po, right? The police. Cut them in. Cut them in on the deal. Now they'll let you operate because they have a financial interest in you succeeding. Same thing. Are railroads and other companies cheating? Uh-huh. Well, who's going to police them? Well, supposedly the government is. Cut them in on the deal. Cut them in on the deal. Now you'll operate with impunity. No one will stop. And the final, it's a list. I'll let you jot down that list while we're thinking here. Fighting a slight cold, so don't mind me, but I'm sucking on these lovely things.
As long as they don't fly out of your mouth.
Yeah, that's happened. Okay, let's just kind of look at these one by one. Shouldn't take long. Let's avoid competition. If I build a railroad here and you build a railroad here, right? We both have a railroad from, say, St. Paul to Helena, Montana. If I have a railroad and you have a railroad, how am I going to get customers to ride my railroad and not your railroad? What do I do? Ladies? How do I get people to ride my train and not your train?
Cheaper.
Make it cheaper? Good. Or maybe have faster trains, right? Better technology, more comfortable seating, better food on the thing.
Sabotage the other side.
Wow. There. All right. And these are all true. But all of that means I have to reduce my price of my ticket, which reduces profits, or I have to invest in better trains, which reduces my profits, or I have to engage in sabotage, which is unseemly, reduces it. Yeah, why not just agree secretly? Look, I'll do this one. You go somewhere else. I won't build a train track where you are. You don't build a train track where I am. It's called collusion. Collusion. And it's illegal. Now, it's illegal now. The reason it's illegal now is because they did it back then. And the US government said, wait a minute, you can't do this. Collusion is sometimes seen in pro sports. You ever heard of the name Colin Kaepernick? Does that name mean anything to anybody in here? Colin Kaepernick. He was in the Super Bowl about 5 years ago. Very good quarterback, unemployed right now. No NFL team thought, gee, maybe we should have a Super Bowl quality quarterback play on our team. Every one of the 32 NFL teams did not sign this guy. He is unemployed. And not because he's not any good. He is good. Played in the Super Bowl. Well, what happened? What happened was he took a knee during the national anthem of every game one season. And then his contract ran out. And no team signed him. There are some suggestions that all 32 team owners colluded. I won't sign them if you don't sign them. Now, that's illegal, and I can't prove what I just said, but that's the suspicion, that they colluded. They agreed. You can't do it. Okay? Same thing here. 1 and 2 are basically the same thing, right? Avoid competition. You go there, I'll go there. And we'll agree to divide profits. You get that region of the country, I'll take this region of the country. You can't do that. That's illegal. Kickbacks are where I'm the train company and you are customers. I'll charge you a certain amount. You'll pay me to use my train, and I'll give you money back. Under the table, they're called kickbacks. Can't do that. Now, you might say today, like, but Menards does it all the time. You buy stuff at Menards and they give you it's called a rebate. Right. That's exactly what it is. And So we have to think about, well, what's the difference? And that's a good idea. It's not on the table, exactly. Yeah, the rebate, make it public. Okay, and then the last one there, slashing of rates against competitors and raising prices where there's no competition. So imagine there's a gas station in Somerset. Let's just go with the Holiday there, and I decide to buy that plot of land that's open right next to it. You know what I'm talking about? The General Sam's used to be there. Right? There's nothing there, and I open a gas station, one pump, right? And that's it. And then there's me sitting at a table like this. One pump, table like this, no coffee, no candy, nothing. And every day I look at what Holiday charges and I make it 1 cent less. Well, they lower their price by 2 cents then to make it even with me and now cheaper than me. So I make it 2 cents less. Now there's nothing illegal about that yet, right? But I keep going. I make it cheaper. I make it so cheap that I don't make any money. I make it 50 cents. I lose money every time you buy gas from me. Well, they supposedly have to match because no one's buying their gas. Pretty soon, they go out of business. I close my gas company, I buy theirs, and I jack the price up because I am now the only gas company in town, right? I lower it against competitors, and then when there's no competition, I jack the price up because there's no competition, and now you're paying through the nose for my gas. Sounds like a lovely strategy, doesn't it?
Amazon just did that.
This is I'm confronting some people saying, well, if you're dumb enough to make your price so low that you're not making any money, isn't that your problem? Okay. And I agree with you that this is difficult, but the US government today dictates fair competition from unfair competition. The US government can prove that the only reason you're lowering your prices is to drive your competition out of business. You are naughty. If you are lowering your price simply because you want to offer a competitive price against your competition, then you're good. If you're sitting there like, well, how do you know? That's a great question. It's a great question. Difficult to prove. But that, I think I was talking to Jack before, that's the difference between a good monopoly and a naughty monopoly. Naughty monopolies lower the prices just to drive the competition out of business. And then they buy the company and become an even bigger monopoly. Good monopolies produce good quality products at good prices. And you might think, how do you know the difference?
You get it.
Great answer.
Okay, any questions here? Your last note for today is an answer to the question, well, what did states do about these problems? Could states regulate the behavior of railroads? Could they say, hey, you can't do this? Could Wisconsin, if the railroad went through Wisconsin, could Wisconsin pass laws or create regulations saying, hey, railroad company, you can't do any of this stuff. It's now illegal. And in 1886, the Supreme Court ruled that because railroad companies are interstate companies, you know what that means?
They go in multiple states.
Multiple states, right? That, yes, they go through Wisconsin, but they're not in Wisconsin. They go through Pennsylvania, but they are not in Pennsylvania. And as a result, Pennsylvania cannot regulate railroads. Wisconsin cannot regulate railroads. No state can regulate railroads. The only entity that can regulate railroads is the federal government. Only the federal government. States cannot. Da, da, da. So now, what I'm obviously going to show you tomorrow is the U.S. government's first attempt ever at regulating businesses. Up until tomorrow, I have never shown you any U.S. government behavior saying, hey, business, you can't do these things. I've never shown you that stuff. It's never happened. tomorrow I will show you the first attempt by the federal government to regulate business behavior. But that's tomorrow. Okay, any questions? Fabulous. We'll take a little 2-minute break here, and then we will start looking at our 2 packets. Let's see what you came up with as far as your attempted understanding. Are you reading it now?
A little bit. I'm refreshing.
Refreshing your memory. Okay.
I have a question. So, I didn't know what pages I had in this one. Doesn't matter.
Wait, which one is that one?
There were 2 packets.
Yeah, we only got assignments from one of the packets.
Oh, we did?
I think there was one number that actually got like the last 2 pages of one and the first 2 pages of the other, which is weird.
But if all 4 of yours were in one packet, we didn't have.
Oh, that makes so much more sense.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, we can start. Shall we start with the marijuana one? Hell yeah. Really? All right. Allow me to say this. You might notice that as we're talking here, you're not going to hear much from me. It's because I'm throwing you in the pool, right?
To
It was a
drown.
bike yesterday.
It was a bike yesterday. I'm switching up metaphors.
You let us
I'm
ride
throwing
the
you
bike
in,
the pool.
and I want to see if you can swim. You will not drown. I will throw you a life jacket. Right? You think I'm jumping in that pool? It's too cold.
What if we can't reach the life jacket?
Hey, help is on the way. I promise. But let's see if you've developed this skill a bit. Okay, so let's just kind of start paging through here. Anyone find anything on page 80?
How about 89?
80? 80? 80. Oh, that's 89. Yeah. 90? No one found anything on page 90?
No one read it? Hey, you want to get somebody on that court game? We have to sing.
Okay, I'm going to give you one.
Are we supposed to be looking?
I was just giving you a chance. Okay, look at the second column of page 90. That first full paragraph. It is a delicious paragraph. United States foreign policy, after all, everyone with me? Page 90. Second column. Oh yeah, it'd be page 91. It'd be page 91, but I don't think it's there. So page 91, that column there, first full paragraph. United States foreign policy, after all, is concerned primarily with the nation's domestic system and only secondarily with the systems of other nations. Let's just think about that sentence for a second. According to this line of thinking, why did we invade Europe in World War II? For France?
The nation's domestic system.
For us. We do everything for us. Okay. Everything we do is based on how it benefits us. Okay, let's keep going. American diplomatic history might be defined as the study of how United States relations with other nations are used to ensure the survival and increasing prosperity of the American system. We did not invade France during World War II to help the French. That was secondary. That was tertiary. Did it happen? You bet. But that's not why we did it. The reason we did it is because it helped us. It helped us. Now, if you follow that logic, why did we invade the Philippines? It helped us somehow. Somehow it helped us. Now, did it end up helping the people of the Philippines? Maybe. Yeah, right. Maybe. But that's not why we did it. We did it to help us. Let's keep going. Foreign policymakers are no more motivated by altruism than is the rest of the human race, but are instead involved in making a system function at home. Does anyone know what altruism is? Altruism is what the person that goes to feed my starving children thinks as he or she is making food for poor people. Altruism is what someone thinks they're doing when they make blankets for people that suffered through a hurricane. You think you're doing it for altruistic reasons. Selfless. Altruistic means selfless. Why do you go to a soup kitchen and spoon soup to poor people? And you like to tell yourself, it's because I'm helping that person.
It makes you feel good.
That's why. The reason you do it is because you like to feel good about yourself. That's why you do it. According to this. And what does this guy say about that? Foreign policymakers are no more motivated by altruism than is the rest of the human race. No one is motivated by selflessness. Nobody. We did not invade France to help the French. We did it to help us. Okay. Altruism is not a factor. Not a factor. Okay. So this idea here, I am introducing to you an idea that goes something like this. This is a rejection of a political argument that we were there to spread democracy. What do we care if the Philippines is democratic or not? Who cares? We invaded the Philippines because we got something out of it. And you got to think through like, well, what is it that we got out of it? Okay, so maybe it was, well, if we don't, someone else will. Maybe it's markets, right? This is Lefebvre. Maybe it's, we wanted their natural resources. We want to take stuff from them, and we wanted their markets. We want to sell to them. Okay. All right, let's keep going here.
So is that
Well, let me ask you this. What did you find? Let's do it that way. Doesn't matter what page you're on. Find a good quote or some evidence to support the argument.
so is that like an economic one?
I think you could make an argument that that is well, it's a rejection of political. Okay.
Okay.
No, it was not to spread democracy.
Well, I have the last 4 pages of the hospital one.
No, we're not going Hofstadter yet.
All right. Well, then,
Check
you
with
know
Ray.
what?
Let's go Lefebvre.
It'll never be the same page.
Let's stay on page 91. 91's a good page. Did no one have page 91? Maybe that's what's going on here. On page 91, the last 2 paragraphs, that's all evidence. That's evidence used to support the reason we got involved in the Spanish-American War was economic. Look at the last full paragraph. The formation of the first chain is the great success story of American history. Between 1850 and 1910, the average manufacturing plant in the country multiplied its capital 39 times. Its number of wage earners nearly 7 times, by the value of its output more than 19 times. By the mid-1890s, American iron and steel producers joked about their successful blah, blah, blah. We outproduced England. United States traded more in international markets than any nation except Great Britain. We traded more than international markets except Great Britain. Why do we want the Philippines?
International trade.
Yep, trade. We wanted their markets. Next page, page 92. There was an economic depression in 1893. After the brief and unsatisfactory recoveries of the mid-1880s and early 1890s, the economy reached bottom in 1893. Uh-oh. We had an economic depression. How do you get out of an economic depression? War. War. And then after the war's over, you got their markets. And you've got their natural resources. This is all economic based. Last on page 92, last sentence of the first full paragraph. The paragraph starts, faced with prospect of revolution. They could look for new physical frontiers, following the historic tendency to increase production, and then ferreting out new markets so the surplus, which the nation supposedly was unable to consume, could be sold elsewhere, and Americans then put back to work on the production lines. Why did we want the Philippines? So we could sell our crap to them.
Which page is that?
Page 92. Last sentence of the first full paragraph.
Oh.
How about going to the next paragraph? Last sentence. Somebody named Secretary of the Treasury John C. Carlisle said, "The prosperity of our people, therefore, depends largely upon their ability to sell their surplus products in foreign markets at whatever word that is, prices." The prosperity of our people depends on our ability to sell stuff. Why did we invade the Philippines? So we could sell stuff. It's an economic. Where's that one? Last sentence of that paragraph. Is there anyone else who was assigned Lefebvre? You were all. Oh, you were. Did you find anything? Did you find anything? Okay, tell me one thing you found.
On page 97.
Okay, pause. Page 97. I'm with you. Okay.
There's just really one full paragraph. It's like right in the middle. It starts with war.
Page 97, it starts with the word war. Oh, there it is. War, if properly conducted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could result in a few select strategic bases in the Pacific, such as Hawaii, Guam, and Manila, which would provide the U.S. with potent starting blocks in the race for Asian markets.
Fan-fricking-tastic.
Yes, Kristen.
Very nice.
Smart
Okay,
girl.
we'll find it. Page 97. You see that big hunking paragraph? That's the main paragraph. About 2/3 of the way down. Well, more like about middle of the way down. Find the word war. It's the first word in the okay. War, if properly conducted, could result in a few select strategic bases in the Pacific, such as Hawaii, Guam, and Manila, which would provide the United States with potent starting blocks in the race for Asian markets. You see, we need the Philippines so that we can sell crap to China, but the Pacific is a big ocean. No boat had enough fuel to make it from California all the way to China. So you need gas stations on the way. Hawaii is a gas station. Guam, currently the armpit of the world, is a gas station. You refuel, you refuel, you refuel, you sell crap. But that means you have to get Hawaii. That means you have to get Guam. That means you have to get the Philippines so that you can sell stuff to China. It's It's all about China. That's what Lefebvre's argument is.
It's an economic value.
It's an Lefebvre is all economic. All economic. Let me introduce one more Lefebvre idea, and then we'll save Hofstadter for tomorrow. Page 96. Last paragraph that's completely within the page 96. It starts these two restraints. Let's read that whole paragraph. It's pretty good. These two restraints explain why the United States did not go to war in 1897, and the removal of these restraints indicates why it occurred in April 1898. The first problem disappeared because McKinley and his advisors entertained no ideas of warring for colonial empire in the Caribbean. Uh-oh. What'd that say? McKinley and his advisors entertained no ideas of warring for colonial empire in the Caribbean. Why do we invade Cuba? The Spanish-American War was our invasion of the Philippines and Cuba. Why do we invade Cuba? Did we want an empire? Nope. Nope. This was not about expanding the United States. If it was, why didn't the Philippines become state? We captured it. Why didn't it become a state? Why didn't Cuba become a state? We captured Cuba. We captured Puerto Rico. Why didn't they become states? Because we were not interested in expanding the United States anymore. He's rejecting that idea that this was about empire, spreading democracy. Oh, baloney. After the war, Cuba would be freed from Spain and then ostensibly returned to the Cubans to govern. The United States would retain veto power over the more important policies made on the island. McKinley discovered a classic solution in which the United States enjoyed its power over, but supposedly little responsibility for, the Cubans. Right? We captured the Philippines. Did Cuba become a state? Nope. It became an independent country. To Lefebvre, that is an argument that says, well, then it wasn't about spreading democracy. It wasn't about adding new states. Westward expansion, everything we captured became state. If you're always wondering, like, well, what's the difference between westward expansion and then when the United States became this global empire? The difference is this. When we captured that land, did it become a state? That's westward expansion. Versus when we captured that land, what happened to it? Did it become a state? That's an empire. You're creating a second class of citizen. Westward expansion, those people became equal to everyone else. They became as American as the original 13. When Britain spread out and captured lands, those people became second class citizens, right? The Americans had no representation in parliament. That's an empire. Westward expansion, supposedly everyone's equal. It's not an empire. It's the spreading of democracy. And now we're capturing the Philippines, we're capturing Cuba. We're not spreading democracy. We're not expanding we're not adding the number of stars to the flag. We want markets, man. We want gas stations so we can sell crap. According to Lefebvre. Oh, you're calling for the righty? The lefty? No. You're calling for the lefty.
Yeah.
He's tired. He pitched yesterday. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So I think we'll stop there. You got 7 minutes to just zone out. But we have found arguments that it was about economic, and we have found arguments that Lefebvre is rejecting the idea that we went to war to spread democracy, or it was about becoming a great empire to compete with Britain. No. If that were true, then there should have been some sort of aspect of westward expansion continuing. It's not true. Now we'll see what Hofstadter has to say about that. Let's go tomorrow. Okay?
Keith?
Cuba.